planning a book launch event seems really overwhelming for you, in this video, I'm gonna break down how to plan an effective book launch event in just 90 days. So that way you can generate a lot of sales, get people into the room, but most importantly, celebrate the great milestone that you've achieved. So let's dive into it. Now, I've broken this up into 4 phases so that way it's not really overwhelming, but I think 90 days is a good time period to keep in mind when it comes to planning your book launch event. Now, a lot of people think that just making a post on social media and telling people to go to a certain website to buy their book is an effective book launch strategy. Now, that's a component that will fall into one of these phases, but in order to really get people to buy your book, you need to do more than just make a social media post. So 90 days is what I recommend in terms of planning out an effective book launch event. But if you need to space this out a lot more and do more than 90 days, you definitely can do that. Or if you want to do this a lot faster, you can do that as well. Just know that whatever you want to do, make sure that you're hitting a majority of these things that I'm going to dive into in this video. So first, let's talk about our foundation phase and what that looks like. So the foundations phase is probably one of the most important parts of this book launch planning process. Because before we book a venue, before we figure out what our agenda is gonna be, before we even start inviting people or telling people that we have a book, we need to say to ourselves, what does success look like for us? We need to answer that for ourselves. Now you may be thinking this is a redundant question because obviously my goal as an author is to sell more books. That's why I wanna have a book launch event, to get people in a room and sell books. That's a goal. But a lot of other people just want to celebrate their milestone with people. That also could be a goal of yours. Your goal could also be to, build a community of readers. So that way they buy book number 1, but say you have book number 2 already in the works, then you have more people interested. You also may want to generate book reviews, right? You may have your book selling on Amazon, on your own website, but one thing you may not have are book reviews, which are a really crucial way to make sure that more people read your book because there's reviews there. So overall, and there's more, but these are some common reasons why people want to have a book launch event. You need to pick out which one of these are most important for you. Because when you're able to identify what's your utmost important goal, then you're able to plan your event around that to make sure that you're accomplishing your goal. So even if you say you want to sell more books, how many books do you want to sell? Define that number for yourself, set a target. So that way you know in the beginning of you planning out your event, how many books you want to sell. Thinking about how you want to build a community of readers, how many people do you want there? Define that number, set a goal for yourself. Again, how many people do you want there? If you want to generate book reviews, what are you going to do at that event that's going to encourage people to leave not just any review, but a positive review? And so before you go super deep into the overall book planning process, take a minute, ask yourself, what does success look like for me when it comes to my book launch event? And getting specific with, I want to sell, say, 50 to 60 books at my book launch event. I want to have at least 35 people minimum in the room, and I want to generate at least 30 book reviews from each person there. Setting those goals for yourself is really crucial to make sure that you are planning an event that's not only going to celebrate your milestones, but it's going to be beneficial for you overall as a business. And once you determine all this stuff, then you can do the fun parts of actually getting ready to start planning your event, which goes into you picking a date for your event and a location. Now, when it comes to picking your date, know this, there is no perfect date for your event. There's always going to be a reason why someone can't come, whether that's their child has soccer practice, they have a vacation planned, it's their anniversary, it's their birthday. There's always going to be a reason why someone will not be able to attend. That shouldn't stop you from picking the date that you want for your event. Number 1 priority, make sure you are free for that day. And number 2, pick the day in the time period that works best for your ideal customer. So if you're gonna do a weekday, try to do it in the evening, just because people work. So if you wanna do something on a Monday, or Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, nothing's wrong with doing that. You don't always have to do it on a weekend, but if you're going to do a weekday, do it in the evening after 5 p.m. just to be safe for your ideal audience to be able to come. Now, when it comes to the weekend, these 2 days are a little bit different. It's not just automatically assumed that because it's the weekend, everyone has unlimited availability. If anything, choosing a weekday is harder because people usually have so many more events on the weekend. Again, not to say that you don't do it. If you're doing a Saturday or a Sunday, number one, being mindful of the time period that you're doing it. So Saturday probably has the most flexibility. I would encourage you, if you're doing a Saturday though for your book launch, to either do the morning or the afternoon. I would not recommend that you take someone Saturday evening, just because that's more likely for them to be doing things that they actually enjoy. But for Saturday, I recommend doing a morning or afternoon time slot. For Sunday, I recommend you doing an afternoon, early evening. And when I say early evening, I mean getting done around 6 p.m. Weekdays, doing it in the evening is because people go to work. On the weekends, for Saturday, try to shoot for the morning, afternoon time period. For Sunday, shoot for that afternoon, early evening, ending around 6 p.m. I don't include mornings for Sunday because people go to their places of worship on Sundays, so you want to be accommodating for that. But ultimately, know that there is no perfect day or time. Pick what works best for you. And if you plan out 90 days in advance, people have time to fit their schedule around your event to fit it in. And that's the benefit of planning for your event in advance. Now, when it comes to doing the time periods, if you are gonna hit during a lunch hour, like if you're gonna do it from like 11 to 1 or start at noon, I would encourage you to have food or some light refreshments, not only to encourage people to come, but just because you're gonna be during that typical lunch period for most people. So that's a good way to make sure that you have people actually attending your event. Now, when it comes to your location, be mindful of how many people you're going to invite, so that way your location can sit as many people as you are anticipating coming. But I also encourage people to think about if they're gonna do their event in person or virtual. Virtual book launches were really a big thing during COVID, but that's still something that people have chosen to do because it is more cost effective, and it is still an option for you to do in order to get more people who may not live in your state to be engaged with you as an author and to learn more about you. So that definitely is still an option for you if you want to do a virtual book launch event, and we'll talk about that more later. But if you do an in-person one, being mindful of how many people you want to invite to your event. Also think about things like parking, thinking about seats that you need in the room, thinking about how much it's going to cost for you to be in that venue and how long you can be in that venue and the time frame there. When it also comes to your location, you want to think about your ideal customer and how is that going to be a venue that they are maybe familiar with already? How is that going to be a venue that is going to be welcoming for them, or they have more opportunities to engage with it a lot further? So for example, with my very first book launch, I had it at a local tea cafe in Indianapolis, Indiana. And with that location, I chose it not only because it was a beautiful location, but because it was right next door to a playground. And as a picture book author, I knew that people were gonna come to buy my book. They were probably gonna bring their kids to that event. And so I wanted a place for adults to be able to have a fun place to be in, relax, and mingle with people, but there also was a playground for the kids who possibly were gonna be coming to be able to engage and interact with each other. And so those are the things that I keep in mind when it comes to picking a location for your event. So if you're like me and doing more picture books, you may want to pick a place that has a little bit of a benefit for kids that may be coming. Whereas if you're doing more adult readers, you may want to pick a venue that may have like a bar situation like that. So that way people can quench their thirsts however they may want to as well. When it comes to this foundations phase, define what success looks like for you. From there, once you set those goals for yourself, pick out your date, being mindful that there is no perfect date, but picking a date that works best for you and your ideal person that you want to come, and picking out what kind of location that you want people to be in for the duration of your event to really set the mood and set the environment for them. The more you think about not just what do you want, but how people are going to be able to engage with you further at your event, the more beneficial it will be for you later on. Now, the last thing I want to mention when it comes to this foundations phase that I haven't mentioned before, and I'm actually running out of space on my board right now, I'm going to put it over here in this top corner, that you need to set a budget. You need to set a budget for your event. This is why I need you to set your goals of what success looks like for you very early on, because it's going to be crucial for you to be able to set this budget. Now, this budget is going to include things like your venue, so that way you can book your venue for however much it's going to be. It's going to include the books, the inventory you need to buy to have at your event, your decorations, your refreshments if you're going for that lunch time period or you want to incentivize more people to come. If you want to do some games or activities with your people, this is what your budget is for. So again, 90 days out, determining that, yes, I want to do a book launch event. These are my goals. here's how much money I'm willing to spend. So that way you have that number initially going in and it guides you throughout the rest of your work. So overall, this is what you need to be doing 90 days out. Now we're 60 days out from our event. Now, when you are doing that foundations phase and you are picking out like your date and your time and you're picking out your location, ideally during that 90-day out, you're already booking a venue once you have determined your budget and where you want to be. So that should already be determined already, 90 days out. So now that we're 60 days out, we're gonna start doing one of the most important things you can do overall as an author to sell books, and especially when it comes to book launches, which is that we are marketing our event hard. But you're gonna be creating things like flyers, your social media posts, whether that's Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. You're making your social media graphics. You're making a web page. And I talked about why it's important to have your own author's website already on this YouTube channel. So if you're interested in seeing that video, you can already go look at it. You also are creating like an event registration. So think about things like a Google form, or more popular, it's probably an Eventbrite situation. This is an optional component of doing this. And I say optional because it really doesn't change that much about the overall process. I just recommend that people do have some kind of event registration form tracker situation, just because, again, thinking about your budget, thinking about your venue, you may want to keep in mind how many people are agreeing to come to your event. Don't charge them, and make it very clear this is just a number count for food or seating and different things like that. But it's good for you to know if you set a goal for having, say, 60 people in the room, it's good for you to know that your registration numbers are hitting that 60 number, or if you need to go a lot harder when it comes to your marketing during this phase. Something else that you may want to do, if you have a listserv, this is a great time for you to email your listserv and let them know that, hey, I have a book launch coming up, save the date. So sending out those save the dates via your listserv are going to be very important. Because ideally, if you already have a business or you already have people that you know who will want to come, emailing them a save the date, doing a more personal invitation is going to be crucial to getting people to come to your event. That's all we're really doing during this promotion phase. We're just doing a giant save the date message out to everyone. Letting them know that we have this date, please start saving it in your calendar so that way you can be in the room. You don't want to miss out on this. And again, doing this 60 days out, this is roughly about 2 months in advance. So that way people can already put it on their calendars, because again, there's no perfect date, but this gives them enough time to figure it out to be there, or buy a book in advance if they can't be there. Also during this time period, something that I did for my book launch event that I don't think a lot of people really do when it comes to book launches, that is really a useful tool for you to utilize, is that I created a book launch team. And now you may be wondering, what is a book launch team? Basically, being an author, if you haven't noticed, which I'm sure you have, is a one-person job, right? It takes one person to write a book. And so because of that, you don't realize how much you need a team until you start doing an event like this. Now, I say a book launch team instead of something like an event planner, because it's not so much that you need someone to plan your overall event. But your book launch team are going to be people that during this promotion phase and the following phases are going to be so crucial to help you spread the word and to help you day of with the event. And so this is just something good for you to do with your own personal network, your own friends. Again, going back to this listserv, if you already have pre-existing customers, to say, hey, I'm having a book launch. Do I have anyone in my network who would like to be a volunteer for me for just 60 days? I just need you to be a volunteer and help me out with this project. Now, when you get these volunteers, I recommend that you communicate with them via email, or my personal favorite, I just made a Facebook group, right? So instead of doing them for your birthday parties and different things like that, just doing it for your overall book launch event, I just found out it was easier for me to make announcements, share information, and to move forward in that way. So stuff that I did with my book launch team, I sent them the flyers and the graphics, and I said, hey, here is the pre-made message. Can you send this message out, please? Thank you very much. Can you send out this? Can you also make sure that you're emailing people with this information? Having them reach out to people in their own network, that's basically the biggest task of your book launch team. To really, yes, you have your own networks that you can reach out to, but intentionally asking them to do the same thing. Now you may be wondering, like, what's the difference between just asking my friends to do it or asking my family members to do it? I mean, they'll do it, but will they remember to? Do they actually want to do that? So having a formalized team really gets them to feel like they're part of the team, part of the unit, and get energized along with you to see your event hit success goals. And even with having this book launch team, I even met with them like 3 times throughout this whole time period, from 60 days on until like the event actually happened, to make sure they understood what was going on, they understood the expectations. But overall, think about, yes, you need to create all these marketing materials, you need to start pushing them out. But is there a way you can build a book launch team of volunteers, of people that you know in your community, to help you with the marketing, to help you with the outreach, to help you even day of? Because again, being an author is a one-person job. So you don't realize it until it comes to like doing events like this, where you can't do it all by yourself. So having an overall book launch team, even for day of, thinking about what roles do I need people to do for my event, you may want someone who is going to do a lot more things for you, such as running your store, right? Because you as the author during your book launch event, you'll be talking, you'll be mingling, you'll be signing books, but you need someone who you trust, who's gonna have your Square, maybe to collect payments, or your Cash App, or whatever, who you trust at that store to sell those books to your customers, so that way you can make sure you get your money at the end of the day. So that's a role for someone on your book launch team, possibly. There's also a role for people to just be like a MC, possibly, to guide people along throughout the day, make announcements, because again, you'll be doing 25 other things. So designating roles as simple as, you're gonna be running the store, you're gonna be my MC making announcements, you're gonna be a food server, depending on how much food you have. Maybe you have someone running registration. I hope you can read my handwriting. But running registration, so say you do have an event registration form, you may wanna make sure that people that registered actually came for your eventual follow-up later on that we're going to talk about. Now, during this promotional phase, something else that you want to make sure that you have, especially when it comes to doing your marketing so that way people know what to expect at your event, you want to create an agenda. Now, you don't have to have your agenda fully fleshed out at this point when it comes to you marketing, right? Because your save the dates can be just as simple as, here's a date, here's a time, here's a location. But as you go out further in these 60 days and you get to the 30-day point, you might want to release the agenda so that way people know what to expect. You don't have to publicly release your agenda, but you do need to start thinking about, what do I want people to do at this event? Because when you are the author and you're having a book launch event, everyone is coming to see you. You want to make that time worthwhile for them because it came all this way, but you won't be able to talk to all 50 of them all at once. So you need to have an agenda of things that they can be possibly doing, you can be doing with them, so that way they feel like their time was fulfilled while they're waiting for their time with you. Now, when it comes to doing your overall book launch event, the timing of it all, I would say a book launch event should be a minimum of an hour, a maximum of 2. You shouldn't go past 2 hours for your event. So let's say our event is 2 hours long, right? Just to be safe. And we're gonna do it from, say, we're gonna pick Saturday, and we're gonna do it from 11 to 1 p.m. That's our time frame, that's our goal. It's gonna be in person. Something to keep in mind are activities that people can do for fun while you're there, but figuring out what people can do for fun really depends on, I would say, like your genre, as well as just like what you will be interested in doing. Here are some sample things that people usually do at their book launch events that's commonplace. So you of course have like your book signing, right? That's something that you'll see at almost every single book launch that you go to. You'll see usually like an author Q&A. You may see like an author reading their book. I'm gonna slice this up here, like photos, right? People want their book signed, they're gonna want a photo with you. You may also have an opportunity to do like a game or an activity. Now, this is something I usually see like kids, kind of children's book author level stuff, but it's still something that adults get behind and adults find fun doing a game or activity. I sometimes see like an author talk or presentation, which this is a time where people usually talk about how they wrote the book, what the genre means, the purpose, all that kind of stuff. So that's something else that you can have during this time period. Of course, you have like mingling as well that people could be doing during this time period. You can have refreshments. I guess that kind of goes with mingling as well. You have book purchasing going on during this time period. People can do it whenever you want to, at the beginning, in the middle, at the end, whatever, because we know the most important thing is that the people actually buy the book. And there's more that people could be doing. And if you've done a book launch before and you had like a different, unique activity that you had done at your event, feel free to drop them down below in the comments so that way other people can learn, so that way they can figure out how to make their own book launch events more unique and special for every attendee that they come to. I know for me personally, an activity that I did that I found to be really useful for people, I blew up the cover of my book and I asked people to sign the cover of the book. So that way I had a memento to remember everyone who came to the event, but also they had an opportunity to be an author and to sign the book themselves. So that was something that I did as an activity that a lot of people really liked, and I'm really grateful that I ended up doing at my book launch event. Another thing that I did at my event that I thought was fun was that I did a lot of like cute little jar surveys. So asking them, of course, like what is their favorite books as well, just to again have the opportunity for them to have something to talk about when they were mingling with other people too. And I also have photo ops that didn't include me in them, again, because I can't be everywhere all at once. So having photo opportunities that I was encouraging them to do that didn't include me was a really important part of my day. I also had an activity where, or not really an activity, but a reminder for them to leave reviews. So that way people knew like, hey, while you're here for 2 hours, can you leave a review for me? That was something else that I did that I actually found a lot of benefit from. And in your agenda, you may also want to do a giveaway. So, and that could be also, you may want to do a giveaway, and that may be tied into your overall marketing plan for your event, where you may want to say, for example, like the first 30 people who get there get something special. That's something I did at my book launch event, where I had the first 10 people who got there got coloring pages for my picture book. And so thinking about different ways you can get people engaged, get them interested, and to gather their attention while you have them, however long you do, is going to be so important for you. And so, like I said, you have 2 hours at maximum. You can really do it in an hour, but being mindful that there is a lot of stuff here that people could be doing simultaneously or focused on one-on-one. So like this author talk and author Q&A, this can be a good 20, 30-ish minutes. I would honestly wouldn't put in more than like 20 minutes. Book reading, I think it does depend. I personally have never done a book reading at one of my book launches, but that's because I have a picture book. And so my book is only like 30 pages, so I don't really like the vibe of doing a book launch where I'm reading my picture book there to people. But for those who have chapter books, graphic novels, memoirs, doing a book reading could be really in your niche, really fit into the overall environment. So like I said, sample agenda that you can use in your event, just being mindful about how you can bring yourself into the event, how you can engage your audience while you're there. But planning this out 60 days in advance allows you to do any preparation that you need, order whatever you need to order, and to really make an event that's going to be engaging for your reader. And speaking of ordering, this is your time to order stuff. Order everything 60 days out, just so that you can make sure there's going to be no delays or anything. Like when I did my first book launch event, for some odd reason, there was a paper shortage. I don't know how. I see trees everywhere, but for some reason, there was a paper shortage. And so luckily I ordered my books, but I ordered my books 60 days out, but there was still a delay put on them. And I don't think they showed up until maybe 3 weeks before my event happened, which was very stressful. So order everything you need in advance, so that way you don't have to worry about it. The 60 days out is a great time period for you to be ordering everything that you need for your book launch event. So at this phase, we have built our foundation, we've set our goals for the overall event, we picked our date, we picked our location, we have booked those things, we started promoting our book, we have a book launch team if we're going that route, we've created our agenda, everything is going well. Now we're 30 days out. At this point, we're just maintaining the momentum that we've already started to build for people. So what does this phase really look like? Well, to keep that momentum going, something you can do on social media is to do countdown content. Now, whether you have a social media page specifically for your books, which is what I highly recommend when it comes to doing stuff like this, or even just your own personal account that you've been using to talk about this, doing countdown content is going to really help with building that anticipation and getting people interested in coming to your event, reminding them that you have an event, or getting new people wanting to come to your event. So your countdown content could be behind the scenes, right? It could be the behind the scenes of you planning. It could be the behind the scenes of you writing the book. It can be excerpts from your book going off of that. So something that I recommend people do when they're picture book authors is to showcase the illustrations without the words, or maybe just showing 1 or 2 pages of your illustrations. Whereas if you're writing a full-fledged novel, if you want to drop maybe a page or 2, or just a paragraph that you think is really engaging, very cliffhangery, grabs their attention, doing an excerpt of that is going to be really great. If you did like beta readers or anything like that, if you have like early reviews, I definitely encourage people to do that as well. So that way you can share that with people, build that anticipation, build that drive for people to come. And again, going back to giveaways, if you're going to be giving giveaways to people at your event, don't be afraid to remind them of that. Some people have done giveaways that I've seen were as simple as follow me, come to the event, purchase the book, whatever, and you get this. So it doesn't have to be complicated. Like I said, I give away coloring pages to the first 10 people who showed up. It could be simply a reminder or something like that. Or if you're giving them something even grander. But if you're doing something like that, posting about it online during this 30 days out to really continue to build that momentum, get people interested, get them excited and wanting to be in their room. Now, something else I'm gonna encourage you to do is to do reminder emails. And like I said, if you have a listserv, do that to your listserv. If you were doing that event registration link, whether that's on Eventbrite, Google Forms, remind those people that registered on your forms, like, hey, you registered for this event, it's coming up soon, don't forget, here's information that you need to know going in. At this time period, when you're giving these specific reminders, you may want to drop your agenda so that way people know when to expect certain things. That might help them when planning out, like, okay, going back to our example, if this event is from 11 to 1, I may not be able to get there until 12, so this is what I can expect, or I have to leave early, whatever, so they can figure it out. I also encourage you to do like personal outreach. I roll my eyes. You didn't see me roll my eyes over here as I'm writing on the board, but I roll my eyes at this because I feel like if I post it on my social media, everyone should be able to see it. But there are some people in your life who are gonna wanna have that personal phone call with you. Do the personal phone call. It will have great benefits for you. Do that personal outreach to certain people so that way they know about the event, they can come to it, or they can just simply share with other people if they're not able to come. And like we talked about earlier, you should have ordered everything back in the earlier phase for promotion, but check it with your orders. You're 30 days out. Check it to see, are your books on their way in? If you ordered more things like business cards or activities, games, so making sure that you are on track to receive everything that you've ordered is crucial to do now that you're 30 days out to make sure that everything you want to be there is going to be there. You also may want to check in, going back to what we said earlier about a budget, you may want a photographer for your event. In fact, I encourage you to have a photographer, whether it's a professional photographer or someone on your book launch team who said they would take photos for you. Double checking on that, so that's really important and crucial, so that way you all know what's going on. Going on that same line, check in with your book launch team, make sure they're on track, make sure they understand what's going on. They know their day of task, right? Because at this point, they're still doing social media for you. They're still helping you push, raise awareness, but they may be your day of volunteers as well. So if anyone's gonna get that agenda about what's going on, it should be, I wrote day of agenda. They could be your day of volunteers as well. So if anyone's going to get the agenda that we just talked about previously, it should be your book launch team if no one else gets it, so that way they know where they're filling in those gaps to support you on your big day. But something I really, really want us to acknowledge really quickly during this momentum building phase is that you are getting ready for this event as well. We've been talking about it a lot, you're preparing for it a lot, but it's time to get yourself ready for it as well. Now, this can all be stuff that you're like, duh, it's obvious. But as you're planning an overall event, these are the small things that kind of slip through the cracks before you realize it. So during this phase, not only are you still building momentum, but I want you to get yourself ready. What this looks like is doing the small things that you don't think matter, but they actually do. So for example, figuring out what you're gonna wear. This could be the girl in me, but it's gonna be so crucial because everyone is coming to see you. Everyone's gonna come take photos of you or what have you. So you want to make sure the photos are going to post about you online are going to be cute. It's going to be a good representation of who you are. So figure out what you're going to wear for that event. Number one. Number two, I also want you to practice your talks. Practice your talk, practice your talking points, all those good things, so that way people actually want to talk to you and they enjoy your time talking to you, and you don't blink when someone asks you something obvious like, what is your book about? Why did you do this work? So whether you're choosing to do the route of doing an author talk or presentation, or you're doing an author Q&A, whatever you're doing at your event, whether you're doing something formalized as a talk or not, people are still going to talk to you. So take some time and figure out for yourself, what are your talking points going to be? Rehearse those talking points so that way you're ready to actually talk at your event and you're not gonna say something that you're gonna regret later. Now, the last thing I want you to do that you may think is kind of weird, but trust me, you don't think about it until it's too late. I want you to practice writing your name. I want you to practice doing your signature. Now, you may think like, oh, this is not important. No one really cares. Yes, they do. Everyone's coming for you so that way they can buy a book and get a signature and a photo with the author. So practice writing your name and do it a lot. Think about how you scribble your name and think about how you want it to be an actual representation of who you are. It's going to be part of building your brand as an author. And so doing that is going to be really crucial for you. So that way people are getting a beautiful signature instead of just some scribbles on a page. No one came to buy the scribble unless I'm Stephen King. But overall, during this momentum building phase, get everything in order, but also get yourself in order. Figure out what you're gonna wear, practice your talking points, practice how to write your name. Trust me, it's gonna come in handy in the future. Now, a lot of people forget about doing this phase after their book launch because the main goal of every successful book launch is to make it to the book launch, right? You wanna get to that big event, the big hurrah, selling all your books, the grand glitter balloons, the whole 9 yards. But what's equally as important is doing your aftermath work so that way people are staying engaged with you as an author and with your book so that way you can continue to generate sales post your event. So 1 to 2 weeks after your event is done and you have recovered from the grand success that you've had and all the preparation that you've done, here are some key things that you need to do to wrap up your book launch stuff with a cherry on top. Number one, you need to start sending out your thank yous. Now, you may be wondering to yourself, I said thank you at my event, probably, if you remember to, but you need to be diligent to do it one more time in written form or on video. So, of course, do your social media posts, thanking everyone for coming, just so that way people can see that again. It could be a post, it could be a video. Do your thank you message. I want you to also thank any volunteers that you had or your book launch team. Now, these are people that you should already have like their personal emails of, but if you make that Facebook group, like I told you about, you can do it in your Facebook group, or you send them a personal email, phone call, text, thanking the book launch team or any volunteers for helping you make your day fantastic. Something else you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna ask for reviews. And you're probably like, why does she keep bringing it up? Ask for reviews, because you need them. It's not enough for people just to buy your book, but you need to have an overwhelming amount of people leaving reviews on your book so that way people want to buy your book. Like how many times do you go to buy something and you look at the reviews first, despite how much you may want something? So ask for reviews. Thank people for coming to your event, but ask them like, hey, if you purchased the book, can you leave a review? Leave a 5-star review, please. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Do that. Because some people may forget. They may get the book and they may forget to do that extra part of leaving a review, especially because they got the book in person instead of ordering it online. So ask for reviews from people. Don't be afraid to ask for it. It's a needed part of your process. So that way more people who see your book and see people who came from the event, you see where I'm going here. Something else that you may want to do in the midst of asking for reviews or like doing your thank you post actually is asking people to share photos. You may want to start like another social media campaign, like, oh, if you came to my event, share your photos online. I would love to see them. Use the hashtag charisma book launch. And my marker is dying. I hope you can still see it, right? Again, another social media marketing tool that you can use to continue to gather that interest and build that momentum and how people feel like, oh man, I missed out on that book launch, but I won't miss out on the next one. So asking people to share their photos so that way other people can see them, but that way you can also snag those photos for yourself as well. And one of the last things I'm going to ask you to do during this aftermath process is that I want you to go back to what we talked about in the very, very, very beginning. And I want you to review your goals, right? Remember when I asked you to set a goal of how many people you wanted, how many books you wanted to sell, how many reviews you wanted, how you wanted to celebrate. I want you to go back to those goals to see if you met them. You should have been doing that throughout the whole process of planning your event, right? Just keeping track on your registration numbers or different things like that, but actually sit down to review if you've met those goals. It's okay if you didn't meet those goals because that allows you to have room to grow for the future. It's even better if you did reach those goals because it allows you to dream bigger next time. But you won't be able to set a milestone for yourself of where you currently are when it comes to your audience level of engagement with you unless you go back to review those goals to set that baseline. So take some time, go back and review those goals, see where you landed so that way you can figure out where to improve and or build on in the future. And that's how you plan a book launch in 90 days. Now, if there was anything that I talked about in this video that you want me to expand on a little bit more, provide a little bit more clarity and examples, feel free to let me know down in the comments below. Because planning an effective book launch is not only key for you to sell books at that event, but to keep selling books in the future.